I could tell something wasn't right the moment I saw Corey's expression. That familiar smug half smile, the one he always wore like he knew something everyone else didn't. He'd only been the site manager for about 6 months, yet there I was, sitting across from him in a small, windowless office, feeling like an intern waiting to be evaluated. My name is Jess. I'm 35, born and raised in Missouri. I've been working with tools since I was a teenager. For years, I was the lead operations mechanic at Blackstone Freight. And yes, is the important word here. Corey tapped his pen on the desk, acting like he was short on time. I'll be direct, he said. You're consistent, Jess. You're reliable, but you're also replaceable. He smiled as if he'd just said something generous. Then he slid a paper across the desk. A 1% raise. That was it. After 7 years of holding that yard together and keeping everything from falling apart, it wasn't even about the money anymore. I didn't react. I didn't argue. I calmly reached into my bag, pulled out the envelope I had sealed 2 nights earlier, and slid it back across the desk toward him. My resignation. Corey froze for a second. Then he blinked, like I'd handed him a parking ticket. You're quitting over this? He asked. I didn't respond. I stood up. He didn't try to stop me. Fine, he said, grabbing his phone. Security will walk you out. Like I was some kind of criminal. I didn't clear out my locker. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I just walked the long stretch through the loading dock with 2 security guards trailing behind me. The worst part wasn't them. It was the looks from the younger workers. Tommy, Drew, even Marissa. Their eyes were wide, like I'd committed some kind of betrayal. No one said a word. Outside, I got into my old Dodge, turned the key, and just sat there. No radio, no tears, nothing. They probably thought I walked away because of the money. That 1%. They didn't understand. I left because they stopped recognizing what I was actually holding together. I didn't head home right away. I kept driving past the highway split, past the new gas station with touchscreen pumps, until the road narrowed down to 2 lanes and trees began closing in on both sides. The town sign was faded now, but I still knew every bend in that road like I was 17 all over again. My dad ran a small shop at an old truck stop just outside Lope, Missouri. 1 service bay, 2 vending machines, a diesel pump that only worked if you kicked it first. Some months, the place barely covered rent, but it was home. I learned how to pull a valve cover before I turned 13. I could gap a spark plug just by feel. My dad didn't coddle me. He handed me a socket wrench and said, "Figure it out." I wasn't treated like his little girl. I was part of the crew. Some nights, we worked until midnight, the radio crackling in the background, both of us covered in grease. He never said he was proud. He didn't need to. When he tossed me a job and didn't double-check my work afterward, that was his approval. When I graduated, I had 2 tech school offers, one in Tulsa and another in Ohio. Full-ride scholarships, both of them. I was halfway packed when my mom got her diagnosis. MS. Just like that, everything stopped. Dad shut down completely. Completely. He started missing days at the shop and drifting away from everything. I told myself I'd stay and help just for a little while. That was the plan. Then I walked into Blackstone Freight. They were hiring for a temporary position. Yard runner, support crew. I figured I'd stay a month or 2 and earn some money. But within the first week, I knew something wasn't right. Manifests weren't being checked, forklifts weren't inspected, orders were written out by hand, sometimes smudged with coffee stains. One night, I stayed late. No one asked me to. I just couldn't stand watching things run that way. I ran diagnostics on the load schedules, reviewed safety logs, checked truck rotations, and right there in plain view, I found half a dozen major violations. And that was only the beginning. I didn't get home until 3 a.m. I wrote everything down, one massive list, pages and pages of it. I highlighted the most dangerous issues in red and left the stack on the ops lead's desk before I went home. A week later, I got called in. I expected to be chewed out. Instead, the old lead, Tom, just looked exhausted. He pointed at the list and said, "You saved us 60 grand at minimum. That shipment would have been lost." Just like that, he offered me a permanent role. I didn't accept because I loved the company. I accepted because someone had to fix the mess, and no one else was stepping up. I kept my head down and started building my own system. Pre-shift checks, order audits, timing plans for loadouts. I trained the crew without ever calling it training. Things stabilized fast. Shipments got cleaner. Accidents dropped. Before long, people were calling me before they called management. What kept me going wasn't pride, it was grit. The same stubborn drive my dad lived on. Some people don't walk away when a place is broken. They grab a wrench and get to work. That was me. I barely had time to catch my breath before everything shifted. The buyout came fast. A Chicago firm. Suits with thin smiles and even tighter budgets. They toured the yard once, then disappeared back to their glass tower and left us with Corey. Corey was mid-30s, soft hands, spotless boots that never touched oil. On day one, he called a meeting and started throwing around phrases like efficiency matrix and resource trimming. Words that meant nothing to people moving freight through mud. He didn't ask how anything actually worked. He just nodded, like he already knew. Week 2, the email landed. Effective immediately, your role will shift to operational support, focusing on transition alignment and resource flexibility. No team, no authority, no explanation. I was erased from the floor like I'd never built the damn thing. I walked straight into his office and asked, "What does this new role actually mean?" He didn't even look up from his screen. "Big picture alignment, Jess. We need to modernize your process. It's legacy code." That hit harder than I expected. Legacy code. Like I was outdated software wasting space. Never mind that my pre-shift inspections cut downtime in half. Never mind that my load checks kept 4 drivers from losing their licenses in 1 year. None of that mattered. Corey had a plan, and I wasn't part of it. So I watched. I watched them skip forklift pre-checks, skip dock timing, overload pallets to save minutes, and I watched the consequences stack up. Crushed crates, stalled drivers, orders arriving 2 days late to major clients. Corey didn't care. He blamed supply chain variables. I documented everything: dates, names, delays, cost impacts, every failure that happened because my system was ignored. The crew noticed. The break room went quiet. One day, Tommy came up to me and said, "We never used to have this many screw-ups." I didn't answer. I just kept my head down and my notebook full. Then the calendar reminder hit. Q4 performance review. Corey Hastings. I didn't roll my eyes. I didn't sigh. I stood up, walked to the back of the office, and pulled a plain white envelope from my drawer. My name was signed at the bottom. The ink was dry. It had been ready for weeks. I slipped it into my bag, zipped it shut, and left my notebook right where he'd see it. If he wanted efficiency, he was about to get the cleanest damn exit I'd ever delivered. I didn't head toward home. I stayed on the highway until the buildings thinned and the pavement cracked into something older. 40 miles later, I pulled off without thinking, gravel snapping under my tires. The truck stop was still there, barely. The sign leaned sideways, letters missing. The diner windows were dark. The service bay doors were shut, paint peeling like dead skin. I parked right in front and shut off the engine. That was where my dad used to stand, arms crossed, watching me work. He'd toss me a socket wrench without looking and say, "Figure it out." No instructions, no praise, just trust. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, knuckles tight, chest buzzing like static. My phone lit up. 6 missed calls, all from the yard. I didn't answer. Not right away. I stared at the bay doors and remembered oil stains on concrete, diesel and burned rubber, the sound my dad made when something wasn't right. The phone rang again. I picked up. Jess, Tommy said. His voice cracked. He was breathing hard. I don't know who else to call. What's wrong? I asked. Flat. No warmth. The loading sensors are firing wrong. The system's out of sync. They're stacking crates heavy side high and nobody's stopping it. Someone's going to get hurt. I closed my eyes. He kept going. Corey says to push through it, but the alarms keep tripping. Can you tell me what to reset? I looked at my hands. Grease still under the nails. Always there, no matter how hard I scrubbed. Tommy, I said, slow and steady, that's not my problem anymore. Silence. Then, Jess, please. I hung up. No speech, no advice. I ended the call and set the phone face down on the seat. For the first time in years, nobody needed me to fix their mess. The quiet felt wrong at first. Too big. Like the air after an engine shuts off, but the heat is still there. My chest ached. Not sharp, just heavy. I got out of the truck and walked up to the bay doors. Ran my hand over the rust. Cold. Rough. I imagined pulling them open, the echo, tools hanging where they used to be. But I didn't. I stepped back, leaned against my truck, and let the silence sit with me. No radio, no voices, no alarms. Just me, the faded booth, and the sound of nothing needing my hands. I stayed there until the sun dipped low. Then I got back in, shut the door hard, and drove off. The next morning, I was still in sweatpants, halfway through folding towels, when someone started pounding on my front door like the house was on fire. I opened it and found Carla standing there, hair a mess, still in her work vest, hands shaking as she clutched her phone. Jess, she said, breathless, you need to see this. She didn't wait for permission. She shoved the phone at me. I hit play. Security footage from the dock. 2 forklifts in a tight lane, both loaded too high. Boxes stacked wrong. One driver swerved and nearly tipped. The second slammed the brakes and clipped a shelf. Carla looked sick. That was 2 hours ago. He could have died. I handed the phone back. Were they following load balance sequence? She blinked. What? Dock timing windows. Tier weight limits. I don't even know what that means, she snapped. You built all that. I left a manual, I said, calm and steady. Printed, signed, dated. It was in the drive and on Corey's desk. She stared at me like I was speaking another language. Nobody gave us anything. We thought you just walked. I shook my head and turned back to the laundry. Everything in that video was exactly what my system was built to prevent. Carla stepped inside without asking. Jess, please, they're bypassing sensors now. Corey says they're too sensitive. They're doing it wrong, I said, and they're going to get someone killed. Then come fix it. I dropped the towel in my hands. Nope, not unless there's a written contract and a salary that starts with a 3. She froze. You're serious? Dead serious. You don't want help. You want me to save it again for free. That's not happening. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally said, Okay, I'll talk to Tom. He's back this week. Good, I said, pointing to the door. Go sweat it out with them. I've got socks to fold. She left in a rush, still muttering. I shut the door, locked it, poured myself a second cup of coffee, and finished the laundry without checking my phone once. For the first time in years, I ate lunch at my own kitchen table. No walkie on my belt, no engine codes running through my head. Just quiet. Just the sound of the dryer thumping and the breeze coming through the cracked window. They wanted me back. They could come the right way or not at all. I was finishing the dishes when I saw the truck pull up. Black Silverado, state plates. Tom's truck. He always drove it, even back when he had a reserved spot near the loading dock. He moved slower now, like his joints weren't cooperating, probably still recovering from whatever surgery took him off the floor in the first place. but he made it up the steps and knocked like he still carried authority. I opened the door. No greeting, just waited. He let out a long breath. Jess, I've been back for 72 hours, and the place is a goddamn train wreck. I leaned against the doorframe. Sounds about right. I've seen the logs, he said. Missed deliveries, violations, mechanical failures. Your name's still all over the back-end architecture. Because I built it. He nodded once. I want you back. Full authority over tech ops. You define the title. Salary starts at 3 times what you were making. I didn't blink. Did anyone read the handoff manual I left? Tom shifted. What handoff? I turned, grabbed a folder from the side table, and dropped it into his hands. Dated, signed, time-stamped, right there on the cover. He opened it and flipped through the pages. Color-coded tabs, workflow diagrams, emergency procedures, all clean, all printed. His face tightened around the eyes. Corey told us you walked without a word, said you left nothing behind. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. That's when my phone buzzed. I glanced down. A text from Nate in maintenance. Corey is saying you sabotaged the system. The words were spreading fast. Tom saw the screen. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. I set my coffee down and stepped closer. He knew that manual existed. He buried it, then blamed the fallout on me because it covered his ass. Tom looked wrecked. You realize this could cost him. Stop, I said, cutting him off. I'm not here to fix your politics. He stared at me like he was trying to understand who I was now, like I wasn't the same woman who used to patch up his yard at midnight. I grabbed a flash drive from the counter and held it up between 2 fingers. Backup copy. Everything's on here. He reached for it. I didn't let go right away. You'll get my answer, I said, steady and calm. When I walk in, it'll be on my terms. Then I let it drop into his hand and shut the door behind him. No second chances, no favors. If they wanted me back, they'd do it right or not at all. I showed up the next morning in jeans, steel toes, and a jacket with no logo. No name tag, no badge, consultant rate. 1 day only, no promises. The second I stepped onto the dock, I felt it. The place sounded wrong. Forklifts idling in tight lanes, drivers shouting over backup alarms, crates stacked high and crooked, half the sensors screaming, the other half dead silent. 3 trucks sat at the outbound gate, engines running, nowhere to go. No one noticed me at first. I walked straight past the office, grabbed a tablet from the staging desk, and pulled up the system log. 15 override codes in the last 3 hours. Load sequence errors on 2 bays. 1 truck logged as departed that was still parked. I snapped the tablet shut and headed to the floor. First stop, Central Dispatch. Pull the load sequence logs, I told the guy at the console. He looked about 22 and completely lost. Who are you? Someone who knows what the hell they're doing, I snapped. Pull the logs, now. He fumbled with the screen. Next stop, the crating zone. 2 pallets being shrink-wrapped completely wrong. Heavy items on top, fragile freight underneath. Absolutely idiotic. Who approved this stacking method? I asked the loader. He shrugged. Corey said it saves time. Yeah, I said. Tell Corey to sign the workers' comp forms when this collapses on someone's leg. I moved fast, took inventory of the damage, started rerouting tasks, flagged 3 trucks for immediate hold. One driver tried to push past me. I stepped in front of his cab and pointed. You're 5,000 pounds over limit. You roll out like that and DOT nails us. You lose your license and the company eats the fine. He slammed it into park. Sensors were flickering across 4 bays, out of sync, misfiring. I grabbed Tommy by the sleeve as he passed. Get me a floor tech with a voltmeter, and someone who can read a grounding chart. He paused. And that was only the beginning. That's you, he said. I sighed. Fine. Bring me a voltmeter. By the time lunch rolled around, I had 6 people back in sync, 8 docks cleared, and every outbound load tagged and corrected. Shipments started moving again. Forklift paths opened up. The alarms finally shut up. The silence, once everything locked back into place, was the loudest damn sound I'd heard all week. That's when I saw Corey. He stepped out of the office like nothing was wrong. Dress shirt still tucked in, clipboard in his hand that he clearly hadn't used once. Jess, can we talk for a second? I walked right past him. He kept going. There's a way to work this out if we can align on some expectations. I didn't even look at him. I finished the job without signing a single paper, walked the dock, shook a few hands, then headed straight to my truck. By the time I hit the highway, my phone buzzed. A text from Drew in packaging. Corey's saying you tampered with the equipment. Says you made it worse on purpose to make yourself look good. I smiled. Good. Then he could explain the upcoming royalty checks. I was halfway through organizing my toolbox when the call came in. Blocked number. I almost ignored it. This is Jess. A woman's voice came through, sharp and polished. Jess, thank you for taking the call. My name is Robin Hayes. I'm VP of Logistics Strategy for Tri-West Freight Systems. I stayed quiet. She continued. We've had 3 major clients ask why we don't use Jess's system. Their words, not mine. That got my attention. We'd like to meet you in person tomorrow night. Nashville. Private steakhouse. Very low key. Why me? I asked. Because whatever you built is saving our competitors money, she said. And because Blackstone's yard looks like a bonfire. I paused, then said, text me the address. The dinner was nothing like a typical business meeting. No PowerPoint, no notebooks. Just Robin, another Tri-West exec, and me. Corner booth, real silverware, steaks bigger than the plates. They didn't waste time. We want to scale your system across 5 regions, Robin said. You pick the team, you set the structure, you own the process. We'll fund the build-out, the other exec added, but the IP stays in your name. Full department, your name on the door. They were smooth, but not aggressive. No contract slid across the table. They let the offer sit there and breathe. I cut into my steak, nodded once, and said, I'll think about it. They looked surprised. I didn't care. The next morning, I called an IP attorney out of Kansas City, a referral from a cousin. We met over Zoom. I laid everything out. Diagrams, process chains, old logs, timestamps. By the end of the week, 3 filings went in. Load balance buffer logic, sequence gate locking, timestamping for regulatory compliance. All mine, all traceable. While that was moving, I kept my ear to the ground. Blackstone was sliding fast. Late shipments. Angry clients. One major distributor rerouted all freight through a competitor's yard. Word was, another 2 were getting ready to do the same. Corey got demoted. Warehouse forms and intake desk. No more button-up shirts. No more efficiency jargon. Just spreadsheets and label tape. I didn't hear it from him. Of course, I heard it from Drew. He texted me a photo. Corey hunched over a folding table, sorting barcodes. Under the image was one line. He processes your royalty reports now. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my coffee. The same guy who told me I was reliable but replaceable was now logging monthly totals on systems he said weren't worth keeping. And I still hadn't said yes to Tri-West. Not because I was unsure, because for the first time in my life, I was in control. I waited until the patents were filed, the paperwork sealed, and the royalty channels mapped. Only then did I decide what came next. Then I sent Robin a 2-word text. Let's talk. 2 weeks later, I walked into a conference room at the Holiday Inn, Office 35. Folding chairs, lukewarm coffee, 4 people who looked like they hadn't slept in days. Tom was there, flanked by 2 finance guys in matching navy suits. The 4th was a lawyer, corporate type, stiff posture, Bluetooth still in his ear like someone might call with better news. No small talk, no fake smiles. We'd like to discuss regaining access to the Calder system, the lawyer said. Exclusivity, integration rights, and long-term licensing. I sat down, opened my folder, and slid the proposal across the table. 20%. Excuse me? The lawyer said. 20% of cost savings, I replied. Across all departments using my system. Not a flat fee. Not a one-time payment. Quarter by quarter. You track the numbers. I take my cut. Tom kept his eyes on the table. He already knew. The suits shifted, one whispered to the other. The lawyer forced a tight smile. That's extremely aggressive. We'd prefer a fixed licensing fee. Predictable, scalable. You're bleeding freight, I said calmly. 3 clients pulled contracts. Errors are up 48%. Your internal loss reports are already past 6 figures. I flipped the next page and pushed it forward. Real-time data, clean, sourced. Your comfort isn't my problem, I said. You need my system. You pay for it the way it was designed, by performance, or you keep bleeding. Tom exhaled through his nose and gave one slow nod. The room went quiet. The lawyer cleared his throat. What exactly are you offering in return? I held up the signed licensing agreement. Full system access, full functionality, ongoing support on my terms, no employment, no title, quarterly payments, all rights retained. I looked straight at him. You don't own me, you rent the blueprint. He glanced at Tom. Tom nodded again. She's right. This is the deal. The lawyer sighed and slid the final document across the table. I signed it clean, no hesitation. The next day, I came in for the final system handoff. No speeches, no ceremony, just a walkthrough with the tech team and a USB drive loaded with updated patch notes. That's when I saw Corey. He was sitting behind a desk in the intake corner. No window, no authority, no clipboard. Sorting forms into boxes labeled In and Review. Shirt sleeves rolled up, tie crooked, face sunburned from actual dock work. I didn't stop walking, but I slowed just enough to make sure he saw me. Still here? I asked, polite smile. You'll be inputting the numbers for my royalties. Make sure you get them right. I didn't wait for an answer. I just kept moving. Because now I wasn't the one fixing other people's messes. I was the one getting paid to own the solution. Tri-West didn't waste time. I walked into the regional hub like I owned the place. Because this time, I did. Full control. No middlemen, no watered-down titles. Just my system, rolled out section by section, clean, sharp. Within 3 months, error rates dropped by half. Compliance audits passed without a single flag. Clients who used to threaten cancellations started extending contracts. They gave it a name, the Calder Protocol. I didn't ask for that. Robin called one afternoon and said, "Hope you're okay seeing your name in bold." I said, "As long as the check's clear, call it whatever you want." My name was on everything now. Manuals, training decks, quarterly performance reports, and Blackstone still paid. Every month, like clockwork, the royalties came in. The reports came with them. Clean PDFs, earnings breakdowns, usage summaries. At the bottom of each one, processed by C. Hastings. That part never got old. I kept them in a folder on my desk, labeled it with masking tape and a Sharpie. Just business. The summit came in the spring. National Freight Tech Expo, Nashville Convention Center, big room, bad coffee. A lot of people pretending they invented things they barely understood. I didn't go on stage. I didn't need to. Someone else was presenting the Calder Protocol. A polished guy with a fresh haircut and a laser pointer. He explained the system like it was a revelation. I watched from the back row. Then I heard my name. Developed by Jess Calder. That's when I saw Tom, standing near the wall, half smile on his face. He walked over slowly, hands in his pockets. "You could have burned us," he said quietly. I didn't look at him, just kept watching the presenter. Didn't have to. We stood there for a moment, the spotlight on someone else. I didn't need the mic. I didn't need the applause. The check said enough.